Hi everybody, it's me, Crafty Witch. Welcome back to my channel. So this is kind of like a part 2 to the ancestors video that I had just done. I was just looking at a picture of my grandmother and my cookum, and I thought, well, maybe I'll share it with you guys. So now this picture, my cousin made a copy of this picture and put it in this particular frame and gave it to my mom many years ago, probably about 20 years ago, as a gift. And it's of my grandmother, my mom's mom. I do not like this frame and I wanted to change it, but I can't because the picture, it's like it has like a glossy finish, and it must be due to like humidity or whatever, but after my mom passed away and I got this picture, it's like glued to the glass in certain spots. So if you try to take it off, like I took the backing off and I try to remove the picture, it is like in places, not everywhere, but in many places, it's like glued right to the glass and it's stuck, and there's like not much I can do, which sucks. But I'm not sure if you can see, you might be able to see kind of like, oh, this lighting sucks, but see these, like these circles and stuff? That's what that is. So that really sucks. So there is my cookum. That means grandmother in Cree. And this is, there's a teepee. And this would have been taken, oh gosh, I don't know, probably in the, I have no idea, maybe the 1930s or 1920s. She was a young girl at the time. Her father had been a chief at one point in time, and traditionally Native women did not wear headdresses. And if you can look, she's kind of smirking a little bit. I'm not sure if that's even showing up very well, but she's kind of got a bit of a smirk because it's very taboo for, like, especially back then, for a woman to wear an eagle feather headdress like that. So, but she was quite the character, and I just thought I'd share some stories about her. She, you know, people talk about like modern day feminists and all that kind of stuff, and she had like a lot of those, well, we come from a very matriarchal culture too, so like women were kind of like the boss in many ways, and that's not even the right word, you know, it's not so much boss, but it was very matriarchal. And she bought her own farm during World War II, and it stayed in her name until she died, and then it was passed over to my grandfather, and it was her farm, not his farm, her farm. And this is during World War II, when most farms and most probably likely a lot of houses and stuff like that, if they were bought, they were the property of the men. But she bought her own farm with her own money during World War II. And she was like one of the first, if not the only, female landowner in this area that I know of. So I'm very proud of her for that, because I mean, that was back in, you know, World War II. Like, how many women own their own farms in this area? Not many. It was typically the husbands that owned the farms, never the wives. But she owned her own farm and she worked, and even though she was like at home, she had 7 children with my grandfather. She had a huge garden. She also worked for Sears. So Sears would send her like big giant bolts of cloth and patterns, and so she would sew all these dresses, and then she would ship them back to Sears, and then they would pay her, you know. And then if there was any scrap material, like scrap cloth or anything like that, she was allowed to keep that, and then she would make clothes for her children. And she done that on a sewing machine, like one of those Singer ones with the foot pedal, like the antique ones. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. What else can I tell you about her? She also kept separate bank accounts. She did not believe in having a joint bank account with my grandfather. She had her own money, he had his own money, and she made sure everything was divided like 50-50. So if they went to town to buy groceries, then if the bill came up to $100, he would have to pay 50 and she would pay 50. Like, she was very much a stickler about that. There was times when, and he would do this just to bug her. So they would go, they love going to Chinese restaurants for like pie and tea and that kind of thing. So that was like their treat whenever they would come to town to get groceries and supplies. So and I can remember him doing this, and I can remember being a little kid, and even as a teenager, oh, he was famous for this. So they would go for pie and tea, and that was, you know, their little outing. And the bill is supposed to be split 50-50, and then all of a sudden my grandfather would be like checking, and, you know, oh geez, I left my wallet in the truck. And then my grandmother would be so upset with him and mad. So there'd be times when she would have to pay for the whole bill, and she'd like be really grouchy about it. I mean, maybe the bill was like $5 at the time, but he would do that to like tease her, kind of thing. So yeah, she was an awesome lady, very fierce. She was very light skinned. She had very light brown hair and hazel eyes. Like I said, our ancestry is very mixed. And yeah, she was quite the lady, very feisty, very tiny and petite. I am the total opposite of her. I'm more like my great grandmother on my German side, like very big lady kind of thing. And yeah, it was, I always felt like such a giant next to her and to my mom, because my mom was really tiny and short and everything too. She took after my grandmother. Then there's me. I kind of felt like this tall Amazon next to them. So that was pretty cool. And then my dad's side of the family, I mean, like sharing those stories with each other is so important, like with your family. Like, get to know your ancestors. You could do genealogy. There's like ancestry.ca or .com. There's older relatives you can talk to. There's different records you can access. All kinds of stuff. So I'll just cover the last name a little bit. So that's my great grandmother on the German side, and my great grandfather Jacob. And then here's Jacob when he was young. So a very handsome man. And what is so weird is my ex-husband, his best friend, looked identical to him without the mustache. Identical. It was like the weirdest thing. And when I showed the picture to him, like it was really kind of creepy, but in a very cool way. So we have this family book, which got splattered with coffee, which isn't cool. But it's like our family crest and stuff like that too. And my mom's side of the family, we have our own coat of arms as well. A couple of them through our different relatives. But yeah, just thought I'd share some silly stories with you guys about my grandmother and stuff. I can remember I was like 4 years old, and she used to always do canning, like a ton of canning, during the summer and into the fall to be, you know, carried over, that would last you till like the next growing season kind of thing. She had gone downstairs into her basement, and I was 4, and I remember that she had like one of those hook eyes or whatever for like locking the door, and I locked her inside the basement. And I remember she was laughing at first and like knocking, "Come on, my girl, open the door." And I knew I was already in trouble by this point, and then I got scared. So then I sat on the floor and I put my feet against the door, and I wasn't gonna let her up, because then after she started getting mad, and I went open the door, and then my grandfather walked in and caught me, and he just laughed. But yeah, she wasn't too happy about that. And then there's another time she kicked me out of the house. My cousins gave me, I had a little red watering can, and they caught a frog. because I mean we lived out, or they lived out in the country. We all lived out there at some point in time. And then they caught this little frog, and they're like, "Oh, she'll cook them. She'll love it. She loves frogs." And I'm like, "No." I was like 3 or 4 at the time. I'm like, "No, she doesn't like frogs." And then they convinced me to go, and they were like laughing, and I stuck this pail in her face, and then I and the frog in the pail got kicked outside pretty quick. So yeah, but she was an incredible teacher, incredible woman. The amount of knowledge she knew about healing and medicines and magic, whatever you want to call it, her and my mushroom were so powerful and fantastic people. So it was awesome. Anyway, this video is like over 10 minutes long of me rambling. I just thought I would share that little bit of history with you guys for whatever it's worth. Ciao.